Hi everybody, I am JayLeonardJ, and today I'm going to break down my top 3 favorite guitar pedals of 2024, as well as explain to you and break down why this year might be one of the most interesting years of my life. Well, welcome to my annual tradition here on the page. At the end of the year, I like to talk about my favorite pieces of gear that have come through the studio here. I'm in a very incredible privileged position to have access to some wonderful, wonderful pieces of equipment and kind of see them launch and go out into the world. And it's a wonderful opportunity to go, okay, what's the ones that stand out to me? Which is the ones that I keep kind of tinkering around with well into the year. So we'll talk about that, as well as I like to talk about what I've been up to this year, kind of share my musical journey, share my life with you a little bit. I am notoriously bad at forgetting to post all my little exciting things on the social media, as well as I have a horrible memory. So having these videos, these wrap-up videos are great for me because I could kind of look back and relive, my journey. And of all the years that I've been doing this tradition, there is no year I want to capture right more than this year. This was an incredibly crazy year, full of change and transition from a personal and a professional career, just doing stuff that's really outside of my comfort zone. And this has been one of the most interesting years of my life, filled with so many emotions and so many wonderful feelings. So yeah, let's just go into it. So the way we're gonna break down the video is I'll start off with talking about the year, and then at the end I'll talk about my gear picks. And if you want to go straight to the gear stuff, I'll have like little the things in the description so you can jump ahead to it. All right, so let's talk about 2024. So let's get into January. January was for me about Yamaha. So what happened was quite a while ago, Yamaha reached out to me to tell me that they're going to be releasing a new Pacifica. They were redesigning the guitar. Pacifica is a long stay guitar in the Yamaha catalog, and it's always been more aimed at the intermediate player, and they wanted to come up with something more professional, something for the gigging musician, something more robust and ready to go. And it ended up becoming this guitar over here, the new Yamaha Pacifica. And they called to ask me if I wanted to be one of the brand ambassadors for the launch of this new guitar. And obviously, of course, I have such a long history with Yamaha. I'm a big fan of what they do and have been playing Yamaha for years. So it was a slam dunk for me. And what that entailed was I went down to California and I filmed with a Yamaha guitar group, the promotional videos for Pacifica, as well as writing the theme song for the Pacifica launch as well, the song that they'll be using for the promotional materials and stuff. When January came and they did, when NAMM happened at the end of the month, that NAMM for me was all about Yamaha. So usually when I go to NAMM, I'm kind of all over the place doing all kinds of things with different people, but this year was so targeted on one specific thing. When they had the actual media press launch of Pacifica, I was the person that was tapped to do the presentation to demonstrate the guitar. And then every day at NAMM, I brought the band in. We did a performance at the Yamaha stage. So at NAMM, Yamaha takes over an entire floor, and there's a big stage they have in the middle. And I did a performance there for people to show off the new guitar. And then when I wasn't doing that, during the days, I had a little documentary crew following me around. They were following me around the NAMM floor and back at the hotel and all over the place to kind of capture this mini documentary they're preparing on my life as a musician, everything. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that video turns out, and it was really fun to be part of that whole thing. And in fact, I went to California a little bit early this year because they had a Yamaha open house, which I took part in, and I did a couple clinics and performances there as well. So January was definitely the Yamaha month. Now, when getting to the personal part, I was after NAMM. We were supposed to go back home, but actually the boys in the band surprised me with a trip to Scottsdale, Arizona. So one thing that happened this year, talk about change this year, I turned 40 this year, and they decided to have an early birthday getaway for me. So we went straight from LA to Scottsdale, Arizona. I'm a big golfer, so we played some golf. And now what they did is they got this beautiful compound. It's a huge thing. And when I walk into the compound after arriving in Arizona, I realized it wasn't just a guy's trip. It was a family trip, and it was all the girlfriends and the wives and the kids and my wife. And it was this beautiful collection of people to just have a good time and unwind. And I'm the kind of guy that doesn't really take vacations, so it was really, it was, to be honest, it was just really humbling and absolutely wonderful just to know how, the people that you have in your life, and be grateful for just having so many wonderful people in my life. So that was a wonderful personal thing for me. Turning 40, oh my gosh. So we were talking about 40. And we decided, you know what people do when they turn 40? They're going to shave their heads. So I went back to Vancouver, shaved my head. The drummer shaved his head. The bass player shaved his head. So this new bald look that I've been kind of pulling off all year, that happened because of that getaway party. So that gets me out of January. But February is when things kind of got really, really interesting. So last year I did a show in Hong Kong, and reunited with one of my close friends, Jun Kong, who is a Cantonese pop singer, pop artist, drummer, multi-instrumentalist. He's well-known and incredibly talented musician. I wrote some music for him back in the day that ended up doing pretty good. And I gigged with him during my days as a guitar player for all those Asian pop stars. And we got to talking, and he was talking about, Jay, why have you never done an album for yourself, like a solo album? You've done albums you've written music for other people, you've been in different bands, and you've done all these things, but you've never really done anything for yourself. And I was okay, well, yeah, I don't know, I just haven't, the time wasn't right, it's too busy. And he said, you know what, I'm gonna make this happen for you. We're going to get you to do your album. And that's exactly what happened in February. He arrived here in February, and in the month of February, we wrote and recorded an album. So we did write some of the songs while we were in Hong Kong last year, but in February is where we wrote a little bit more than half of the album. We had 2 weeks to write and arrange the album and 1 week to record it. And I'll tell you something, it was a crazy experience, because just writing an album in that amount of time, we converted this whole room into like a jam space and a writing space. And oh my gosh, that was full of just absolute craziness. We recorded it in the former Mushroom Studios. I always wanted to record an album in Mushroom Studios because it's one of the classic studios in Vancouver. It's now called Afterlife Studios, so we did it there, like trying to fulfill a childhood dream of doing my own album at Mushroom. And then the producer is one of my close friends, Ben Kaplan, who's done art music for Mother, Snoop Dogg, Shakira. He's an incredible set of ears, and what a wonderful person to keep me and June, in the right lane as we, we're trying to press together this album. And that's a whole story I'm going to save for another video. But the album is full of, it's my love letter to all my influences. It's country, it's, blues, it's funk, it's pop, it's 80s, 90s hip hop styles. It's all over the place. We released the first single last month in November, and we're going to be releasing the couple singles throughout the beginning of next year, and then dropping the whole album in the spring. So I'm really looking forward to you listening to it. I put so much love into it, and again, just taking myself into a new place. Having my name on the album is a pretty wonderful thing. So that's what was really going on in the beginning of the year. As we got into the spring, I think there was a movie that I did some guitar parts for that was released, and called The Thunderman's Return. It was like a thing I did with the Chan brothers. And then I went back to Florida. There's this wonderful YouTube page called the No Fear Gear Reviews, and I went there. I'm one of the co-hosts of that show, and I go down there every couple months and do a bunch of segments for them, and they cut it up and release it on their page. It's a lot of fun. I get to work with some really, really wonderful guitar creators and do a bunch of crazy stuff that I just can't do in the confines of the studio. It's a very inspiring thing. But for me, when it came to the spring, the highlight of the spring was the fact that the Vancouver Canucks, my local hockey team, made the playoffs. Now, they haven't made the playoffs in forever. They haven't made the playoffs in like 10 years, 2012 or something like that. More, well, I guess they had, except for the bubble year, but what are you going to do in the bubble year? So they made the playoffs this year, and we were in a very fortunate situation that the band that took me, that I took to NAM and that we went to Arizona with, they tapped us to be the official house band for the playoff run. So all the home games for the Vancouver Canucks, during intermission, we were playing music in the arena. So we'll be that band that you see like 2 seconds of before they cut to commercial. That's us, or that little band you see in the background while the pundits are doing their little talk, about what happened in the period. That's us. And it was an absolute pleasure. I'm a huge Canucks fan, and being part of the playoffs and having a great seat to every single home game for an entire playoff run. Oh my gosh. The child in me was just exploding with absolute joy. It was incredible to be part of it. It was cut short. We made it 2 rounds in and we lost in Game 7 to Edmonton. Oh, Edmonton, jeez. But it was a fantastic run, and I hope the Canucks make it to the playoffs this year because I'd love to do that again. So the Canucks might be one of the coolest things that happened professionally in the spring, but actually for a personal thing, it was my 10-year anniversary with my wife. I don't talk about her too much on the page, but she is just as badass as the day we got married. And we ran the Sun Run, which is like this 10K run that they do in Vancouver every year. We ran it on our wedding day, so we did it again for our anniversary. And again, lots of lots of really good feelings. We made it 10 years, so there you go. We're just all kicking butt and taking names. And I guess that takes us into the summer. Summer was filled with a lot of the same stuff. We did lots of festivals and award shows. We did some corporate events. Really, some cool clients too. We did some stuff for EA and stuff for Google. Talk about my personal life though. The coolest thing that happened this summer was I completed my very, very first Gran Fondo. And I don't know if there's any of you out there that are cyclists, but I got into road cycling this year. I've never rode a road bike, like these fancy carbon fiber things, and did the Lycra thing. I'm very new to that. I started last year, and I had this idea in my head to complete the RBC Gran Fondo in Vancouver, which is a ride from Stanley Park to Whistler. So it's up the Sea to Sky Highway, up to the top of this kind of like mountain thing. It's a rigorous, painful, beautiful ride, and I think I finished it in pretty good time. I'm pretty proud of how things came out. I didn't even know how the gears on a bike worked like 3 years ago. I didn't ride bikes very much when I was a kid, so being able to go from that to getting up to Whistler Village on my little road bike and my tighty Speedo-y Lycra thing, and that's pretty darn cool. So that's the summer, which gets us into the fall. The fall had a really cool thing, and that had to do with my trip to Macau. So I went to Hong Kong in the fall to start the promotion for this new album that we put together. The album was, during all of this stuff, we were working on the mix and getting the mastering and all the details for the album. I did a trip to Asia in November. There's this thing called the Hush Festival, and the Hush Festival is this big public event that happens in Macau on Octa Beach. And they have this big, beautiful stage for the main acts, and outside of it is all this other stuff that was just wonderful, beautiful festival. And we headlined the Saturday night, I believe it was, and it pretty much played the new music, which was incredible. The highlight of that show for me was the fact that the song that we first wrote together, we did as a duet at the very end of the show, and it kind of made everything really feel like full circle. I started writing music with this guy 10 years ago, and now we just finished an album together, my first album, and having him on stage and sharing the stage with him as we're playing the new album, oh my gosh, that's about as special as things can possibly get. While we were in Macau too, part of the festival included me doing a clinic for the Macanese guitar players out there, and I did one on the pedal board. It was a lot of fun, and the rest of that trip had to do with getting ready for this album release. So we did a bunch of interviews and press stuff. There's this really cool cat named Chichong in Hong Kong, and he's the guy that interviews a lot of the big artists, and he's connected with this really cool place, this V Music kind of facility that has this incredible record collection, and anyone could go in there and just listen to records. It's a really wonderful thing, and we presented them with a copy of the new album. So if any of you are out there in Hong Kong or thinking about going to Hong Kong, you could actually go to this library and listen to the album before it's actually released. So I would, go there and check it out. While we were in Hong Kong as well, we filmed a music video for one of the songs there, and it's this beautiful thing that I'm really curious to see how it comes out. I haven't really acted before, so doing this video has been a very new, fresh thing. Again, like this whole year, out of my comfort zone, not riding bikes and shaving my head and writing an album and acting in this music video. This is all this new crazy stuff for me. But of all the things that really was crazy, now I enjoyed playing that festival. There was a wonderful festival stuff, but the emotional highlight of that whole trip was the fact that while I was in Hong Kong and in Macau, my wife was here in Vancouver giving birth to my newborn girl, Leah. So what happened was I had this baby girl that was due to be born at the end of November, but as life always goes, the baby knew that I was going to be in Asia in the beginning of November, and the baby came like 2.5 weeks early. We were prepared for it, obviously, but I thought we were gonna make it, but unfortunately, I did miss it. That was an emotional day, actually, to be honest. All the feelings, like from elation to nervousness to crazy guilt to excitement, just everything. And luckily I had the band there, and we were in the hotel room at 6 a.m. with the phone on, just waiting for the good news. We had champagne in the fridge and celebrated till 8 a.m. It was an absolute wonderful, wonderful thing, and a wonderful, wonderful memory. Just craziness. Now, we were supposed to do one more show in Hong Kong for the Jockey Club before I went back to Vancouver, but a typhoon hit Hong Kong, so we were in sound check, and we decided, you know what? They're canceling this show. Instead of waiting the extra day, I'm gonna go fly home, meet my daughter. So we booked a flight, and it was like in a movie where you're like rushing down. I rushed into the taxi and rushed to the hotel to grab my stuff, and we're trying to beat the flight. Is the flight gonna get canceled? Am I gonna get the tickets? I was having trouble paying for the tickets on my phone, and just all this craziness. But I barely made the flight, and luckily I got back to Vancouver a day early to, I guess, acclimatize myself to Vancouver and meet the newborn baby again. Crazy stuff this year. Now, unfortunately, I didn't have too much time to spend with the kid, because the day after I get back, I actually had to pack up my stuff and head over to the Stanley Theatre in Vancouver. So I didn't go anywhere else, but there is a theater in Vancouver called the Stanley Theatre, and it's where a lot of the big musicals and drama plays happen in Vancouver, and they were doing a production called Smoky Mountain Christmas. Dolly Parton's Smoky Mountain Christmas. It's a musical play based on the Scrooge kind of story, only all the music is written by Dolly Parton, and it takes place in like 1930s Tennessee. So it's like really cool. It's country music. It's a really fun musical. Now, we did that show 3 years ago at the Stanley Theatre as well, and I made a video on it. So if you want to actually see what my life is like doing musical theater, I would highly recommend you watch that video. They decided the show was quite successful 3 years ago, and they decided to remount the play. So actually, while I was in Hong Kong, they were in rehearsals and in tech rehearsals for this production. So I actually had my backup guitar player doing it. But I get back to Vancouver, meet my daughter, and then get over to the Stanley Theater to start previews. And that's exactly what we did. We did previews and pretty much ran the show. We ran the show up until Christmas Eve. And did the show, and it was a lot of fun. And you know, on my off days, get to meet, like, spend time with the family. It's been absolute chaos. This entire year has been chaos. But if you want to know 2024, oh my goodness, that is it. So that is my year in a nutshell. Well, ladies and gentlemen, you've made it this far, or maybe you just pressed the chapter in the description, but this is the part of the video where I break down my top 3 guitar pedal choices of 2024. And the way I do my adjudication here is it has to be a pedal that I've personally spent a good amount of time playing. So it's something that I've worked with, I know how it works, and it inspires me. It's not something that I've just read online and I like the specs, or there's a lot of fan fervor over it. I really wanted to give you something that I completely understand and has a personal thing. So obviously, because of my judging criteria, there's a lot of pedals that really get lost in the mix. And this is quite a personal thing, but I figure this is the most fair way I can do it. And because of the fact that, you know, every year there is a lot of cool pedals that I miss when I'm doing my list, I decided to add an extra pedal to my my list, and that is the better late than never pick. So maybe it's a pedal that was released a couple years ago that never made it to my bench, that I never got time to play, and it found its way onto my my table on 2024 and has inspired me. And this is my pick for that. This is my better late than never pick. I believe this was released last year, and oh my gosh, it is a good one. This is the Origin Effects Halcyon Gold pedal. So Origin Effects has a series of pedals: the gold, the blue, and the green. The green was their take on the Tube Screamer. The gold is their take on the Klon, and then the blue one was released this year, and it's their take on the Blues Breaker. And what happened was this year they released the blue pedal, and Origin Effects sent me the whole series just to kind of play with and goof off with and enjoy. And I'll tell you, as I was tweaking these pedals, this gold pedal really spoke to me. It really, I'm a huge Klon fan. I use a Klon a lot. It's a big part of my thing, but there's things I inherently don't like about the Klon. And I feel like in a quick foul swoop, this solved all the problems, and it just is the ideal Klon. To the point where if someone's looking for a Klon, I would actually probably recommend this over actually getting a real Klon, which is... is that sacrilegious? I don't know, but that's how much I really dig this pedal. I've been using this quite a bit, and it comes down to this. There's a couple features they do with this pedal. There's a dry and a drive knob, so you can change the blend on your own. You don't, as opposed to having it all in one pot like the original one, which is a cool feature, but I've seen pedals that have that before. There's a different voicing that you can get between, so there's like an Origin tweaked Klon. That's a cool feature. It sounds quite nice, but there's other Klon pedals that do the same thing. For me, what makes this pedal unique and perfect for the Klon is this adaptive circuitry that they use. And it is a magic thing, because the Klon Centaur, especially when you have the gain up, and that's how I like to use it. You could use it as a clean boost, or you could use it as a gain up. When the gain is up, it's a very, almost like a treble booster in a way. It's a very mid-rangey thing. It really plays with your frequencies. It really kind of has a voice, and that voice is absolutely mint. It is gorgeous. But when you're riding the gain high on a Klon Centaur, a couple things to make a note of: it is not dynamic. It is a full rock and roll, full in your face, sizzle power, volume on 10 sound. And all the other thing about it is when you roll down the volume, it's not going to clean up very nice. It gets kind of muddy, and those mid-range frequencies get lost in the muck of everything. It's not a particularly good cleanup pedal. It's not a particularly good dynamic pedal when you're crunching up the gain, which is a setting I really like in the Klon. So what this adaptive circuitry does is it is dynamically changing the sound. What happens is when I play quietly, I'm getting an EQ of my natural guitar. So it's my natural sound, my natural rig sound. It's EQ'd nice and flat. But then the harder I hit, that EQ shape starts to play around and turn into that clon shape. You get that clon mid-range, and you get that clon sizzle frequencies, and all the lovely high cuts and low cuts and all that kind of stuff that the clon does to make that sound. So what you can do is when you're going hard, you're going aggressive with it, you get that great clon sound, but then I start backing up. Oh my gosh, I got these dynamics now that I never got with the clon. When I turn down the volume knob on my guitar, it cleans up in a really pleasing way. Now it's natural and organic, and oh my gosh, things sound more balanced. It doesn't get mucky, and it is absolutely addictive. There's 2 settings to the adaptive circuit about how strong you want that effect to be. You just set it to where it works the best with your rig, and I'm going to tell you, I've been using this thing all over the place. I really do say, if you're going to get a new, if you're looking for a clon pedal, I would recommend this over that. Easy. That's how much I like it. It's a fantastic pedal. It is the Halcyon Gold Overdrive. So now we're getting into my picks for 2024. My first pick for 2024 is actually going to be a update pedal. So there's been a couple really cool updated pedals that have come out this year. There's been the new MK3 driver by Robert Keeley was one that stuck out. I really enjoyed this one. This is the Rattler by Jam Pedals. They now finally put in an asymmetrical symmetrical switch, which is something I've been really asking for years, as well as instead of using an off-the-shelf op amp, they design their own and they build them on their own. It's a really, like, that's love, that's attention to detail. That's really, really great. But my pick for number 3 would actually be another Greek company. It is Crazy Tube Circuits with their updated version of the White Whale. Now, I love the White Whale. I think this is one of the funkiest, most fun pedals ever. It's great to just stick in the front end of your amp and get some old school, clashy, nasty, gross sounding reverb and tremolo. When I say gross, I mean like gross in the most beautiful way something can be gross. Clangy and zingy and, you know, just all that bashy and delectable stuff. Now, the updates that they did to the old version is we now can change the order of these effects, which actually is incredibly useful, and the old one couldn't do it. Not only that, but now we have separate volumes for this pedal, so we can actually have a lot more adjustability. We were stuck with a big master volume, which is interesting with the old one, but I like to be able to have my tremolo a little bit louder, and then when I just have my reverb, I can keep it a little bit more neutral. And also the reverb goes a lot deeper on this one. It gets pretty crazy, and it's a little bit more, you can get some different levels of reverb, and it's musical in a really lovely way that they tweaked it. And they also added a harmonic tremolo to the tremolo, so now you have this optical tremolo, which is like nice 60 sounding, and the tube tremolo, which is this very emotional, I want to cry kind of tremolo, and this harmonic tremolo, which is this beautiful 50s, you know, magnetone, or like almost like a univibe-ish kind of way, thing. It's lovely, absolutely beautiful pedal. And the great thing, if you are looking for that all analog reverb and tremolo that goes on your board that you can kick and it'll make a crazy sound, check this out. You could also, there's a remote too, so you could actually keep it on top of your amp as well. But I thought this pedal was just too much fun to play. Had to put it on the list. It is the updated White Whale. For my number 2 pick, I decided to go a little bit boring. This is actually not a sexy pedal by any stretch, but man, it is a practical pedal, and it is a pedal that I really feel like should be on almost anyone's pedal board. In fact, this, of all the pedals that came out this year, this is the pedal I've seen on more of my friends' pedal boards. I'm seeing them all over the place. Everyone, it's because it's what we wanted. It's what we wanted, and it was executed really, really well. And it just is such a useful tool to have on your board that it's just a no-brainer to get. And it's this pedal over here. This is the Line 6 HX1. So what this is, it's pretty much an HS effects in a small box that you could just do one effect at a time, and that's it. It's really, really simple to use, but they did do some things that make it so incredibly useful. They have this, you could use this as a tap or a flux knob, and the flux could either use it to ramp into different settings, like say you have a whammy sound, you can go from low octave to high octave and do the, you know, Rage Against the Machine thing, or you could have it as 2 different sounds within your effect. So like if you press it, say you're using a tube screamer effect on here, you could have like the knobs change parameters when you're press the button. So you could have almost like two versions, two scenes of the same effect. And it's easy to switch presets as well. So you have a lot of flexibility. The money for this pedal is you could also wire this thing out so that you could actually place it in two different parts of your pedal board. You could actually have it, say, with your, like in the front end before your drive boxes. So that way you could use it as a overdrive pedal, or you could use it as a wah pedal, or you could use it as a whammy. And then you could also reroute it at the same time. While it's in that position, you could also have it routed in the modulation side of your pedal. So now it's at the end of your line where you could use it, you know, as a delay, or you could use it as a chorus, or you could use it as a reverb, and all in one box. You have four things, or you could even just put it into the effects loop. You have another out for your effects loop, and all of a sudden, what you have is any pedal you need, anywhere you need it in your board. And this is ideal for people out there that have big pedal boards, and you just need that. You have like that one song in your show where you need a flanger, but you don't really need it anywhere else. Or maybe there's another song in your set where you need a low octave, but you don't need to have this big low octave pedal in your board. Like these little pedals, these little sounds that you just needs to make little cameos in your set. And if you just had that one sound for all, you know, all your songs, you would end up having a way bigger pedal board than you need. This is that wonderful, like emergency pedal they could always have. It even has a looper in it. You could use expression pedals out, so you can use it as a wah. You can do anything you really want with it. It's incredibly versatile. It's small. It does MIDI. It goes anywhere, and it's just practical. It gets the job done. Any like pro gigging cat, anyone that's playing in like a corporate band, or anyone that's like doing something where you're playing a lot of different sounds and you don't want to just, you know, go full digital and stuff like that, this might be the pick for you. This is the HX1 by Line 6. And now that brings me to my favorite pedal of 2024, the one that brought most smiles to my face. When I get a new pedal in and I'm getting ready to do a video for it, or, you know, workshopping it and trying the different sounds, this was the one that I was smiling the most and just kind of laughing the most. Like, I had fun dialing in this pedal, and it was fun to tweak. There's some pedals out there that have a lot of sounds and they do a lot of great things, but they're not particularly fun to tweak. You know, there's sub-menus and little things you have to go for, and you know, it becomes a little bit of a slog. This one was just inspiring to play the whole way through. It's a wonderful application. It sounds great. It is the Keeley Electronics Octa Transfigurating Fuzz. And this thing does actually quite a bit, but pretty simply, what you have is you have two kind of pedals going on over here. So you have a fuzz on one side, and then on the other side, you're playing with pitch and time. So you have, you know, octave ups, harmonizer sounds. You can get the octave up, octave down. You can have octave up and down. Same thing with your pitch modulations. Have harmonies up, harmonies down, or have them both on at the same time. You can easily do it with this switch here. And you can even get chorus sounds. And not only that, you could hold on to the button. You can get these ramp up, so you can have like this Rage Against the Machine. Wah, wah. You can do all that kind of stuff. Or you can hook it up to an external foot switch, and then you can really smooth things into it. And it's just really, really, really fun stuff. And not only that, but it comes with this fuzz that is absolutely mint. I love the sound. It's a big muff pie style fuzz, and I'll tell you something. I think of almost anyone, and I think I've mentioned this quite a few times on my page. My favorite take on the big muff is actually Robert Keeley's take. The more the years go by, the more I just really, my ears like the way Robert Keeley does the big muff. And he's done it, he had this like dark side kind of pedal, like this David Gilmour pedal. He had this Loomer pedal, the Rotten Apple. It's all kind of this version on this IC muff, and I believe this is an IC muff. I believe it's pretty much a similar circuit, if not the same circuit, very similar, but it is great, especially in that punch setting. Oh my gosh, it is just so good and juicy and thick and harmonic, and it has some cut to cut through, and it has some authority to it. It sits great in a band, and it just sounds massive. It is an absolute, on its own, it's a great pedal. And then you add this octave thing where you can get these, or this pitch thing where you can get the harmonies, or you can get the low, high octave stuff. You can get double octaves. You can get chorus. It's just, and you could change the order. But the thing that really makes this pedal really good is the pitch shifting sounds great. The fuzz sounds great. And look at this. It's very straightforward and simple to use. I don't have any, there is a button here. And that does some things, but on the whole, it's not one of those pedals where there's a lot of secondary functions. In fact, I don't think there are any secondary functions over here. What you see is what you get mostly when it comes to this pedal, and that makes it insanely fun to tweak. When I am tweaking a pedal, I know exactly what setting I'm on. I know exactly what's going on. I know exactly what I'm manipulating. I'm completely in control of my sound, and it's just filling my head up with ideas. It is a wonderful, wonderful pedal. They really knocked it out of the park, and I can't say enough good things about it. This is I recently made an album, as I said earlier in the video, this year, and I needed this octave, this digital octave fuzz sound on the album, and the pedal I used was an MXR octave fuzz, which is a very lovely pedal on its own right. It sounds great, but man, I wish I had this pedal when I was recording that song, because there's a setting here that I know would blow it away. It's just really great stuff. And that's why this is my favorite guitar pedal of 2024. Well, and I guess that kind of takes it to the end of the year. So we're at the end of the year, and before I go, I'd like to take the opportunity to thank everybody. All of you out there, the musicians I play with, the people that inspire me, the Patreon supporters. It is so humbling and profound. And I say this every year. Like the fact that, every year or every month, you support the page. And if it wasn't for you out there, it gives me the freedom to pursue this and to play music and make an album and go out and do these kind of things, get better microphones, get better cameras. It's really, really humbling, and it's really, really wonderful. And I can't thank all of you enough. The little direct message, the DMs you send me, and the things that you say, the support, the following the evolution of your pedal boards and your rigs, it is beautiful and it's wonderful. So I'd like to thank you, and I'd like to thank all the wonderful designers and creators out there for coming up with cool ideas every year and making new pieces of gear. Like, it's a wonderful time to be a guitar player. It's just so much wonderful pieces of analog and digital gear. The digital stuff's getting better every year. The analog stuff is getting more clever every year. There's always new cool brands and new cool designs and new cool stuff. It's just, I love being a guitar player because of, this wonderful community of designers and players and creators and all this stuff. So I just want to say, before I go, and we're getting into this new year, 2025, I just want to say a big thank you to every single person out there. Have a wonderful year. Keep safe. I'll see you all soon. Take care, and goodbye.